Hey all, so this is a new video, and we're gonna be working on some normal chess. Let's get into it. My opponent starts the game off with e4, and I play my normal opening, the Caro-Kann, which I have played for around a year now, and I have loved every second of it. d4, I play d5. My opponent goes knight f3, which is a line. I take, and my opponent decides to go for a gambit. My opponent plays this gambit, f3. And the thing with gambits, in my opinion, is that if I don't have to take them, I just don't take them. This is a gambit. The computer gives it a mistake because the computer is like an all-knowing god. But for me, playing the move knight f6 and just not accepting the gambit, making sure that if he's going to play fe, then I can play e5. This is a position that I'd much rather play with black than going into lines where I try to hang on to my extra pawn because he has extra development. I hate those lines because then I just get steamrolled off the board and I probably will just lose. So I don't go into that. But my opponent also doesn't go into that for some reason. My opponent plays this really bad move, bishop c4, which is, I suppose, a line. I guess this is a line, but it kind of shocked me because I thought that, well, now I get bishop c5, bishop f5, right? And I'm defending my pawn, and now you can't even take it. Now I'm just up a pawn, right? And I thought, okay, well, this is stupid. Bishop c4 is just a ridiculous move. And there are more mistakes coming. My opponent decides to take on e4. Normal, I play knight takes e4, of course, and I'm trying to double his pawns here. My opponent goes knight up. I take the knight. Which is actually a mistake for some reason. It makes sense, actually. I probably should have played e6 to develop my bishop and then get my knight out and just get some development here because I'm just up a pawn. Like, Engine says I'm up a pawn with like literally no compensation for white, so I can see why. But I take, and my opponent should just recapture, but my opponent decided to do something a little fancy. My opponent plays knight e5 with a very simple idea. If I take the queen, it's actually mate in 1, and I don't want that to happen, so stupid little me, instead of realizing that knights can go backwards, and knight d5 is a very easy move to save the knight and keep everything together. I don't play it, and I'm like, okay, always be tricky. I've seen this trick a million times. I play e6. Which gets an inaccuracy by the engine, but I mean, I'm up a pawn. And now what's even better is that my queen gets out, and I'm going to be able to start a big attack on him. Now bc, I go queen h4, best move, king up here, and I play this move bishop d6, which I thought was very natural, simply because if I'm able to trade my bishop for this knight, his pawn structure is ruined permanently. I'm able to castle, knight a6 in some lines, rook here, and I'm just kind of butchering him on the king side, and I'm just up in material. My opponent plays this move, very natural. I decide to take on e5. I decide here that taking on e5 is probably the best move. Queen takes e5. Only move I have to castle, of course. I'm not that much of an idiot. I'm not going to play something ridiculous. Of course, he's attacking this pawn. He's threatening to infiltrate. If I play like knight d7, I mean, I can sack the pawn. And this is fine because you can't take here because this, and I mean, you're getting butchered. The bishop moves, I win the game. But I don't see why I'd go into all that, so I just simply castle the king. It looks like he has some pressure here, but there's really nothing. I have my bishop and queen here to defend. I'm okay. And my rook is actually where it wants to be. If I'm ever able to open up the f-file, I just win the game. So my opponent goes queen here, obviously winning this pawn, actually. But here I have an interesting idea. And it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. If I want to play natural moves, I can play knight a6 and promptly just, I mean, this is a nothing burger. I guess this line is interesting. Bishop b4 is a very nice move. I'm just reading off the engine line. This line is interesting, but I mean, this is fine. I don't really enjoy having those doubled pawns, so I just didn't go for this, and I decided to sack the pawn. I played this move queen g4, which I thought was very natural. Basically, the idea, if queen here, queen check, king up, I win the rook. As you can see by all that, that happened. But what my opponent should have done is play this move, bishop e2. And I'm actually very close to lost here. There's only one move that keeps advantage, and I have to find queen g6, which is very nice, because after takes, I would have this move, and he can't take the rook because I just win the game here, obviously. So he has to probably just block with bishop f3. This is the line, bishop f3, bishop f3, and I take on c2. Very interesting. If he takes here, I take on c3, and the rook is actually trapped, which is, that's a hard line to follow. That's a hard line to follow. I could have found it maybe, but it's a tricky line. I guess bishop here is best. No, because then, yeah, here, and I'm probably doing quite well. But none of that happened, and my opponent took on b7. I give him the check, I win the rook. My opponent takes that rook, and I'm thinking about taking on a2, but I decide against it. I thought that taking on a2 isn't really necessary right now. And h2 wasn't really necessary right now. And I decided to go for something else. I played this move instead, which is a much worse move. Basically just going after this pawn. The best move was very simple. It's this move, and I mean, yeah, I win the game. But I missed that, which is a common occurrence in this game. I thought I played smoothly. Engine absolutely hated my moves. I go queen to, if I can say words, queen to d1. My opponent goes here. And the move here is very natural. And bishop e4 is still winning. Not as much as the best move here. The best move is actually really funny. It's just knight d7. And, I mean, let's say queen c6. Knight f6. I'm bringing my knight over here. It's like going to be mate soon. It's going to be mate soon. I have 3 pieces on his empty king. Now, I wasn't really thinking about knight d7, mostly because I wanted to keep the queen locked away. And I thought that if the queen goes here, then I'm probably better. So I wasn't ever really thinking about knight d7, and I instead just took the pawn. A very normal move. And I was really worried about bishop bishop a3 in some lines. My opponent plays this move. It's not the best move, but I was worried about some line after queen here, and then, I mean, this is kind of scary. This is kind of scary, like here, queen b8. I mean, I have to find some forced sequences, but I do end up making it out okay. My opponent plays bishop a3 here, and it's actually a blunder. It's a mistake because of the move that I found, queen d2. And after king here, bishop d3, of course, and I just missed the move again. Like, I don't even understand how I missed this move. It's bishop e4, and he can't stop mate. It's mate in 5 after bishop e4. He literally can't do anything after this move. He can't defend the pawn. His best move is king f1, and here I just check him, and I win the game. So I don't understand how I didn't see that, but I didn't, and instead I took on c3, which still keeps advantage. It keeps advantage, so that's fine. Basically, the idea is I'm attacking the rook, and if he takes, I'll take the rook. He comes out, and I'll take this pawn with check, and I'm probably just completely winning. It's a good idea. It's a good idea, but I had something so much better and very obvious too, which is kind of ridiculous that I didn't see it. So my opponent goes rook here, and I thought that taking on d4 was wrong, actually. I thought that this, even though it was the check, was wrong because he has this idea, and I didn't want to allow any of that. So I didn't take on d4. I instead just moved my rook. I played rook there. I didn't think rook here was any good because that pins my bishop already. I didn't really like that, so I just went rook here. Very natural. And my opponent immediately blunders again. Like, I thought he was going to do this, in all honesty. This is just an easy fork. I pick up the bishop. And, well, the rest of the game goes pretty swimmingly. My opponent goes here, winning back my bishop. I go here, trapping my opponent's queen in my defenses. Bishop takes. I go rook up. My opponent moves his rook. one last trick. If I take this bishop, I get mated. So always got to be on the lookout for that. But I play g6 because I know what I'm doing. My opponent goes here and resigns, which is really funny because in actuality, I would have had a very funny move here. I was going to play this move queen g6, queen b6. And it's pretty nice because my opponent can't take, and what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to put my queen here. I'm just going to put my queen here. If he takes, I have back rank mate on this square. And I'm literally just going to come in. I'm going to bring my rook. I'm going to mate him. Like, that's kind of the whole idea, which is pretty funny. But my opponent didn't allow me to do that. My opponent played bishop b4 and resigned the game. So this game is pretty interesting. This game is pretty fun. Not the longest game. They're normally a little longer. If you enjoyed, please hit me with a like, subscribe, all the normal stuff the YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, good evening and good night.